Hello, 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 and welcome to this live stream. My name is John Good here, and welcome. We're going to be joining a special guest in this live stream that we haven't had on the show before, and I hope you're excited for it. Couple rules before we get into it. Don't spam the chat, please. Make sure that if you're going to ask a question that you go ahead and put a Q in front of it so that I can easily pick it out. And then also, too, if you want to jump the line, so kind of as we get more and more questions, the list gets longer and longer with the questions that we have, go ahead and throw a super chat in there and you will go ahead and skip to the front of the line. Let's go ahead and introduce our guest. Our guest today is one of the most involved IT content creators on YouTube. He's gained work experience in different jobs and industries, including restaurants and as an NYPD volunteer. But lucky for us, he has a home in IT. Let's go ahead and welcome our guest. You might know him by his YouTube channel. It's Kevtech IT Support, but we also know him as Kevin.
How you doing, man? How's everything?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm good. Can't complain. Another day, another Friday.
Yeah, Fridays are always the best. It's the beginning of the weekend. Get to kick back and relax and hopefully not work over the weekend or night or anything like that. So
Definitely.
So, Kevin, thanks for joining us. Now, I know that a lot of the subscribers and the followers that I have for my channel, even though I focus, primarily on cybersecurity, we have a lot of people that are either, getting into IT support and help desk jobs, or maybe they're just trying to break into the industry in general, and that is, potentially kind of where they where they're going to start out. And that's kind of one of the initial draws to why I wanted to bring you onto the show, is because I really want people to be successful in any role that they get into. And, especially with that role in particular, I'm sure there's some specifics and things like that that are really important to, kind of nail down and really do well. But let's go ahead and just start out by, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and just give us a little bit of background about you and kind of how you found IT and got into this whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Kevin. You guys know me as Kevtech IT Support. So a little bit about me. I started. So I have a background in restaurant. I've been in IT for a while, but before that, just jump back a little bit. So I've been in restaurant for over 10 years, and I just deal a lot with fast food, customer service, hospitality, dealing with, I guess, hard customers in the food. I worked in the different variations of restaurant like Chipotle, Qdoba. You talk about 16 Handles, the frozen yogurt place. I also done retail. I worked scrap and metal. I worked a lot of different jobs. And the thing is with me is I wanted to pivot over to IT. So literally the first thing I did was I tried to do some research, and some people were telling me about CompTIA this, CompTIA that, A plus, A plus, A plus, A plus, and I'm like, I have no idea what that is. So I literally did some homework and I did some research, and I found out about the CompTIA A plus. And at that time, I didn't know about it. And my favorite, my favorite person for A plus material was Professor Messer at the time. He came up when I typed in A plus stuff, which I love that guy, and he has a lot of free content, and he's like the GOAT of CompTIA learning. So I took some information, some inspiration from him. I started doing some research on A plus, and then I went online and I saw there was a school that they do like tech training for IT, and they do tech training for A plus, Network plus, Security plus. And before I even got to that school, I also did NYPD as well. So I did work for the NYPD for 4 years, and I also did that on top of working restaurant. So I went to that school. I did some research. That school is a little it's free, but that school then you need to have at least a high school diploma, or they help you get a GED, and then you could actually start learning A plus in that school. They'll actually help you with that. So it's absolutely free. You don't got to pay anything. It's called Brooklyn Adult Learning Center. So if you go on Google right now and you type Brooklyn Adult Learning Center, I went to that school, and they do all this free training. So I went in there. I got my hands dirty. I started learning about A plus. I started learning about hardware and software, because A plus covers vast majority of it. Is a lot of stuff that it covers. It covers operating systems. So if you want to learn about Windows, if you want to learn about Linux, which that's going in the future now because they didn't cover it at the time. The stuff that they covered at the time was XP and Windows 7, but now they cover Windows and Linux. and a few other things like Active Directory a little bit. But going back, I looked at 7 and I looked at XP, and then I also learned about hardware because I didn't know anything about computers. And just being honest with you, I knew absolutely nothing about computers. I started from zero. I didn't know what a mouse was. I didn't know what a keyboard was. So I had a teacher. He trained me on A plus stuff, and then I got my A plus. Then after that, because the school, they like to help you with your job and put you in an actual job. They actually invited the hiring manager of the Department of Education to come in, and he did an interview with me. And literally, the first thing he asked me was, "Why should I hire you if you have no job experience?" That's literally the first thing he said to me. And then I'm like, I should be able to give him a straight answer about this because it's kind of hard to answer that question because you have no tech experience. So how are you supposed to answer that question when you have no IT experience? So I told him that I have a lot of customer service experience. So I could transfer my restaurant experience over to IT. So I have empathy for a user if they're having an IT issue. So at the end of the day, you could teach tech skills. Sorry, you could teach tech skills, but you cannot teach soft skills. So either have soft skills or you don't have it, or you learn it over time. So I'm all about soft skills. So I think I could transfer that over to IT, and I think I could transfer that over to this job that I'm working in IT. So I'm all about customer service. Like at the end of the day, if the customer is not right, we try to make them feel like they're right. So I did that. I gave him an answer, something like that, and he liked that answer. So he really liked the answer that I gave him because I told him that even though I don't know IT, I have soft skills. I could pivot that over to IT, and he liked that answer, and he gave me my first job for the Department of Education. And yeah, and then that's how I got my first job. And then I still did it for about a year, and it was. I'm gonna be honest with you, it was rough. It was rough. Like I actually have a YouTube video on this. It's rough because I was making more money working in restaurant than working in this job. So I was making $9 an hour for the Department of Education at that time. This was like a long time ago. So it sounds like it's rough because it's not a lot of money. And I said to myself that I know that this job is not the best job in the world, but I want to get some sort of stepping stone to get into IT. So I'm gonna take it anyway. So I took it. And then, years going back into over a year, I doubled my salary, and then I got a job working for an MSP company, and I got that job because I learned a little bit of everything, and then I actually did a home lab as well, learned about Active Directory and all this other stuff. And the reason they hired me in the other job was because I had a home lab. So I talked about that, and they gave me the job opportunity, and I doubled my salary. So then going into that job, I touched a little bit of everything. I touched Cisco Call Manager, Active Directory, Office 365, Exchange Admin, two-factor authentication with Dual, Palo Alto, Barracuda, a little bit of everything. And I got some experience, added that to my resume. Then I stayed there for a little bit, and then I went to another job, and then I did the same thing again. I doubled my salary again because I know how to market myself. See, I think with me is I tend to market myself extremely high because I think I'm a valuable employee because I know I know what I have, and I know what I'm capable of. If you put me in the job, I know that I'm gonna kick butt. So I asked for a certain salary because I know I'm gonna get the job done. So I increased my salary again, and I worked for a hedge fund. Then after that, I worked for another hedge fund, and then after that I worked for a technical training school, and I for Job Skills Share JSS. I currently work there as a tech trainer, and then my full time job I work as an infrastructure support for a fintech company. So that's pretty much a little bit about me. But I started all this and I learned all this, and nobody guided me, by the way, to any of this stuff. I just learned A plus. Like everyone kept telling me A plus, A plus, A plus, but that's it. Like there's no guidance. So that's why I get a little frustrated with the IT industry because sometimes people don't want to help you. I had to learn the hard way, but I actually, at the end of the day, it worked out for me. So that's a little bit
Yeah,
about me. So
that's great. So, I
yeah.
mean, for everybody that's watching, there's a whole bunch to kind of unpack from what Kevin said. You know, several years ago, there was not a lot of free training for a lot of different areas, right? Or inexpensive training. And kind of what happened was the price of all this stuff really started to skyrocket. And so, we would see training that's just crazy expensive. I mean, even now you see training that is like that. In cybersecurity, we have things like SANS training, which is, pretty expensive. It's like $7,000 for a course. And that definitely comes up when people are asking about training. And I mean, the whole SANS thing is, kind of another discussion because they're really targeting kind of businesses to send their employees and stuff. But I don't really want to get too much into that. But even with like degrees and things like that, cost of a lot of this stuff has just gone crazy. And so we've seen a lot of people kind of, instead of following the trend and going through those paths, kind of going back to things like self-studying or trying to find alternatives that maybe aren't maybe quite as good or quite as as much money invested into creating them, but they'll still kind of get you there or get you close enough to where you can really be effective. And then also too, I mean, Kevin started with zero experience. He said zero with computers, right? Had to learn about the mouse and all this stuff. And so it's really in a lot of cases, a lot of people can do these kind of jobs. I hear a lot, people are kind of intimidated with getting into computers or getting into tech, and maybe I'm not smart enough, right? And a lot of people, you can do it if you're willing to put in the work, because it does take time to really do this stuff and learn this stuff. It's not something that you're going to learn overnight. It's not something you're going to learn in a week. You really have to, kind of put that extra experience in and do the labs and things like that. Something that was kind of interesting to me, Kevin, was you said you didn't have a lot of guidance kind of going through all this stuff. So would you say that, I guess, did you have any kind of at least mentor that kind of, guided you a little bit in some way, or was it just completely, you just figured everything out along the way and nobody ever, kind of gave input?
So I'll be honest with you, nobody ever gave me input. I had to figure it out on my own, and I don't like being negative because I don't like talking about it. But the thing is that some companies I have worked, when I asked for help, nobody wanted to help me, so I had to learn how to swim on my own. And I'm not saying that all companies are bad. I'm just saying that sometimes you're in an environment where it's very hostile and nobody wants to help you at all, and sometimes you have to figure it out on your own. So for certain things, I had to figure it out on my own. I didn't have anyone guide me. I just had to either sink or swim. So that's basically how it was for me. And I know that it's not for everyone like that, because I know if you go to a company, they will train you. Depending on the company, they will train you. But for the most part, I never had any guidance. And for the most part, I always recommend everyone that's new to IT, I always tell them to Google the living hell out of everything, because
Yeah.
sometimes you're not going to get the answer from somebody if you're trying to ask for help. So,
Yeah. And I think, for me too, kind of coming up in this tech career field, it was kind of the same thing, right? Like even with like YouTube, where you guys are watching us right now, believe it or not, a lot of this stuff wasn't out there several years ago, even 5-10 years ago, right? Like a lot of this stuff, how much there is, has dramatically increased over the last couple years, and we have a lot more creators that are out there that are kind of contributing back to the communities, and that are trying to help people or offer things that can kind of help guide you or get you in the right position. But at the end of the day, it is your career, and the only one that's going to care the most about your career is you. So you have to be willing to put in that extra work if that's what it takes and that's really what you want, because the payoff at the end is completely worth it. But again, if you're not going to put in the work, it might not work out. So awesome. Okay, cool. So one thing that I want to do is kind of shift on to talking a little bit about YouTube. So obviously, you're a pretty well-known content creator, and really known for IT support, help desk kind of content. And so one of the things that I'm curious about is how that piece kind of came into play, and how you were driven that way to create content.
yeah. So when I first started IT, I didn't find any content on help desk IT support stuff, but I also wanted to create my own way on how I got started in IT. So a little bit came from me learning about different technologies, and also came with me learning things by myself. And I said, you know what, I want to make a YouTube channel where I could share my information and I could give it to other people, because not everyone has money. Not anyone could afford things, and not everyone could get the information for free. You have to pay for it sometimes. So I started my YouTube channel because of a couple of things. One is I wanted to share my information. The second thing is that I got frustrated with people on YouTube and certain people that I just see on YouTube that they give a lot of misleading information. They don't tell people how it is. They just tell you to do one thing and that's it. They don't give you any actual information that's going to help you be successful in IT. So that's the reason why I started my YouTube channel. Because at the end of the day, like I always tell people that if you're gonna share something, make sure you share it and make sure you could back it up. Make sure you could back up your information of what you're sharing. So that's the reason why I started my IT support channel, help desk channel, is because I want to get people fundamentals. I want to show people that anything is possible for you to do. If just like me, like I have a restaurant background experience, right? And I start teaching this stuff, right? So anything is possible. You could get a job in IT. It's definitely possible. It doesn't matter if you have a background that's retail, hospitality, and all that motivated me to make a YouTube channel. So I want to help people. I want people to be successful. I want people to get fundamentals, but I also want people to understand that it's not just it's not just learning a skill. You need to have a little bit of everything. You need to fix your resume. You need to fix your LinkedIn profile. You need to do hands-on training with labs. You need to do a little bit of everything. It goes back to all that. Because when I first started, nobody told me any of that. Like literally, I'm over here scrapping for information. Nobody would tell me anything. So that got me a little frustrated. So that's the reason why I started my YouTube channel, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes total sense. I think that one theme that's really consistent with a lot of content creators is, in some way, a lot of us, we want to give back, we want to help, we want to uh, kind of make the path to where we've gotten a little bit easier for those that come after us because, IT, cybersecurity, it doesn't matter kind of what area you're in. Again, a lot of this stuff didn't exist. And with so many certifications and shiny bells and whistles and things like that you can learn, it's like it gets kind of confusing if you get lost in all of it. Kind of that paralysis by analysis. There's so much information that you're just like, I don't know, and you can't move. And so, yeah, I think that definitely a lot of us, get into this to help people. And I think another, great point that you make is that, there's a lot of people on YouTube that create content just in general, so on other platforms and things like that. And you definitely have to not necessarily trust everything that you see, because there are people that are out there that, right? Because anybody can make a YouTube account. Let's just put it out there, right? And there's people that are doing it that they don't have good intentions behind it, or they have kind of this hidden alternative motive. And, maybe they're trying to push this $100,000 cybersecurity program or IT program. I don't know. But that stuff exists, right? And one thing that I've found, that I typically do because, just part of being in this content creation game is, of course I like to make connections and meet different people that are in this game and form those bonds. But, one thing that I'll point out is that in a single video, it could be possible if you go on YouTube and you're watching a single video and you hear something that's maybe controversial, right? You could think that content creator is just crazy, right? I would personally, and this is what I do is, when I find a new content creator, I will look at maybe a few videos or a few samplings of their videos and try to get an idea of, is this person really interested in helping me? Are they providing valuable content? Or is it just every video is kind of these super controversial topics? And then the other thing too is I always check these people on like LinkedIn too, because, that's another great example of how you can really kind of see if somebody is established in their career field. And, this, you kind of hinted at it, Kevin, but the whole idea of, personal branding, and in your career, you really should be looking to grow your presence on things like LinkedIn and building connections with people that are in the industry and really networking with people. And I say it in a lot of my videos and even in like coaching sessions and things like that. I mean, LinkedIn specifically is a really interesting example because, it's supposed to be your online professional kind of profile, right? And I can go to your LinkedIn and I can click the activity log, and I can see what you're doing on there, right? Like I can see if you're interacting with people, if you're liking posts, if you're sharing posts and things like that, because that just is participation with people. And, you everybody is kind of going to kind of give back in their own way or contribute in their own way. But that is a very important thing that you should do in this industry, in IT and cybersecurity and programming, like whatever you want to get into. And I've even had interviews that I've been on that are, for me, for job interviews that have asked, what do you do to contribute to the community? Are you contributing to open source projects? Are you writing documentation, or all this kind of stuff? And I think that that's probably one of the most underutilized things, in my opinion, as far as like job seekers, because not a lot of people harness that power of LinkedIn. I mean, if you don't follow Kevin or you're not connected with him, go connect with him. Kev, how many connections do you have?
Yeah, about 18,000 followers now.
There you go. So there's gonna be some kind of post that you can interact with on his feed, and then that will lead to other connections and other people that you can meet as well. Plus, you'll get useful information from him too. So highly recommend that. Connect with me as well, and we'll make sure that you get some good connections, or that you have an opportunity to engage with people in the different communities. So highly recommended.
I was gonna say that, not to interrupt you, but I was gonna say
Okay.
that make sure you if you're building a connections or you're building your brand on LinkedIn, make sure that you're building genuine connections. You're not just adding people. 'Cause I've seen a lot of LinkedIn posts where I'm doing the 1,000 challenge, where I want to connect with a bunch of people for no reason, and then you're adding people that aren't actually giving you any useful information or useful content, or it's just wasting your time basically. I'm just being honest with you. I'm just trying to be honest as much as possible, because I've seen a lot of people do that. They try to say I'm doing 1,000 connection challenge, or I don't know, 500 connection challenge, and that doesn't make any sense. So the only way for you to get actual genuine connections is by you engaging, talking to people, adding people, and there's that function in when you're at someone, you can put a note on it. So that's how I do it. Usually, if I add somebody, I like to add notes to it. So I say, oh, I'm adding you because I see you've done blah blah blah, or I'm adding you because you're a job recruiter and I see you're hiring for this position. So those are like the little things you should be doing if you're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, those challenges, not a fan. Every once in a while we'll see that pop up as far as somebody saying, "Hey, go do this. Try to get 1,000 connections. I challenge you. I dare you." And LinkedIn really, the whole idea is that you are building these connections and that you're growing that connection, right? It's not just like Instagram or Facebook or something like that, where it's more about the social and trying to really get as many followers as you can, right? It's very different, and it's really about your professional image, and that obviously doesn't mean that you can't have whatever the max is on LinkedIn. I don't know, 40,000 connections or something, but you want to try to really develop those connections and engage with people. I mean, you're gonna obviously engage with certain people more than others, and that's okay. But you don't want to just go out and connect with random people that with the goal of just trying to get as many followers as possible, because that it doesn't get you anywhere. You still have for instance, an empty activity log where it's like, okay, this person has 40,000 connections and they don't post anything. They just take.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, great point for sure. So, another question just on the YouTube stuff, how how would you say that the growth of your YouTube presence and your YouTube channel has really translated into your career?
So it's funny you asked that question. So I actually I got on job interviews um where I actually go and apply for a job, and I apply for the job, and I go for the hiring manager, and the hiring manager looks at me and is like, "Wait, aren't you that guy from YouTube?" And then they started like, "I'm not gonna ask you technical questions. I'm gonna ask you other questions." So that happens to me sometimes. Other times I actually get people that actually I have worked with in the past that know I have a YouTube channel, and then they feel happy that they work with me. And then the people that I work with currently right now, like the people that I currently work with right now, like literally the people that I work in my job, like everyone likes me. I get along with everyone. I'm just a I don't know. I'm just a likable guy. I like to work with everyone. I change the mood of the room whenever I go into a job environment. Any job that you could ask people that has worked with me in the past, I literally change the mood of the room. Like if you're having a bad day, I try to make you happy. That's just how I am. Because I don't like anyone being negative in the team. So they know I have a YouTube channel. I don't like anyone negative in the team. I try to influence everyone in a positive way. And if I learn something in my job, and they don't have a YouTube channel, people that I work with me, if I learn something new, I'm gonna teach it to you as well. Because I want everyone to learn, and I want everyone to be blessed with the same skills or learn a new skill, if that makes sense. So I use my YouTube channel to help me, but also managers like my channel, and some of them even use my channel to do IT support interviews, or do like soft skills interviews. I have spoke on several platforms because I have a YouTube channel. I have spoke with Mert America. I spoke with Generation USA. I spoke with Job Train, and I plan on speaking on other platforms, probably Women in Tech and a few other platforms. But definitely, my YouTube channel has helped me get out of my bubble a little bit as well, because I used to not be like this sociable person. But everyone that knows me and that has worked with me and that knows I have a YouTube channel, I'm a positive guy. I try to motivate the team. I'm all about motivation. I'm all about teamwork, and I'm all about sharing my knowledge with people. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. Just about sharing knowledge. One of the things that I've seen in this career field, especially when you're starting out, is you feel like a lot of the more senior people that they have a ton of the knowledge, and it doesn't feel like that always necessarily comes out. And the ability to share information, because everybody kind of has different pieces of information, right? Somebody has a specialty in this, somebody has a specialty in that. And the more that you can share information and kind of collaborate with people, it makes everybody better overall. And then also too, if you do have a specialty in this certain area, or know this specific kind of fix, then it makes you kind of that person to go to, and people know that you're the person to go to. And I think in general, that just kind of raises up your position in your company or in the industry. And really just, again, it just makes people want to really work with you. And I think too, for me, I've definitely been on interviews in the past where I've been asked about my YouTube channel and been noticed, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna turn on the lights in the interviews and stuff. And I think the thing that is really interesting about it, especially too, is that whenever you do something that is out of kind of the standard or kind of above and beyond your actual job, you start to stand out. And whether that is contributing to like an open source project or a YouTube channel or very active on LinkedIn or all these kind of things, you stand out because not everybody does it. And I swear that the as much as I like talk about contributing to the community and building your LinkedIn and doing all these things, people, there's still a ton of people that don't do it. And I can only lead you to the water. I can't force you to drink. So, but it's true, because not a lot of people are doing this, and you will stand out by doing it. And that can help you land some of those jobs that maybe you really want, right? Maybe you really want that promotion. Maybe you really want that high paying job. Maybe you really want that first job, right? And, I think that your opportunities, you get more opportunities the more you kind of do this stuff. And especially the longer that you're in this career field, you'll start to get more opportunities. And especially if you build up that presence and do all these, do some extra stuff, it does nothing but help you.
Definitely.
So let's see here. Let me look at other questions here. So, Kevin, platforms for being active. You're super active on LinkedIn, super active on YouTube.
Hmm.
What? I guess first of all, what is your preference as far as platform? Like, if you had to choose your primary preference, and then kind of how do you distinguish the two? Like, what do you see the differences of the two?
So for LinkedIn, to answer your question first, I'm a YouTube guy. I love YouTube. I never had issues on YouTube actually. Everyone like the stuff I do on YouTube, nobody really messes with me on YouTube. But if I to distinguish the two to answer your question, like I would LinkedIn, I use LinkedIn more for connecting with job recruiters, hiring managers, directors. The stuff that I post usually on LinkedIn is more like tech related, or is more like a life lesson that I have learned because I've been in IT for a while. So I like to bestow my knowledge on other people. So I usually put life lessons, IT related stuff or IT material stuff. And then YouTube will be more like I'm teaching you tutorials or I'm teaching you a certain topic or a certain thing that you need to know if you're going for a job interview and stuff like that. So that's how I separate it. Um, just like you, I think you have like members only on YouTube. I have a members only as well on YouTube, and I actually show like the human side of me. At the end of the day, I'm human. I'm not a robot, right? So on YouTube as well, I show like the human side of me, things I do to have fun because I'm not all about IT. Because at the end of the day, you have to know how to balance it out. Uh, because I have done martial arts. I have done judo. I'm a judo guy, so as my sensei would say, you need to know how to balance everything. You need to know how to balance life. You need to know how to balance everything in your life. If you don't know how to do that, then you have no control of your life. So I'm all about balance, and I'm all about just putting the things where they go correctly. Like for me, I think LinkedIn for me is more like getting my managers, IT directors, and teaching people about IT stuff there. That's what I do LinkedIn for. And then YouTube, I use it for more tutorials and stuff like that. So answer your question. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely appreciate that. One of the things that I also tell people too, kind of along those same lines, is that all of these different ways of contributing to the community, they really are kind of different skill sets because typically you'll do it in a different way, right? Like LinkedIn, a lot of times you'll be doing more writing. Maybe you have a short video or maybe you have a video on there, but typically it's a lot more writing compared to like YouTube, which is obviously pure video. Doing things like creating scripts and stuff like that on like a GitHub account or contributing to projects that way is obviously going to be more writing. So you kind of, as you're deciding which one of these things to do and which one kind of appeals to you, kind of really look at the skills that you have, which you really enjoy, and also too, is there something that you want to improve in yourself? So if you're, for instance, a terrible writer, right? Let's just say you're really bad at writing or bad at writing technical things, then maybe you want to write and just start writing more. And then you start building those skills and doing that stuff. So I think from a career standpoint, and something that I try to get across in a lot of the content that I put out there is that, you really, you want to kind of have a plan, right? You want to think about it as high level as you can, kind of where you want to get, and then start kind of working back. What do I need to do to get there? What kind of skills do I need to get? And especially like at the help desk or IT support kind of roles, typically those are entry points into organizations or entry points into technical roles. And it can be hard, especially initially, to kind of have that insight, as far as where you want to go. But even in that first role, kind of look at the more senior positions and seeing things like, well, this person has these kind of certifications or this kind of training or this kind of knowledge, or they're doing this and that and whatever, and kind of formulating a plan at least to get to that next position. And you'll do that throughout your career. And hopefully, just kind of like what Kevin did, you keep doubling your salary every jump. Eventually, I'm pretty sure you're going to hit a wall where you're not going to double it. But having a plan is always a good thing. And the people that don't have plans are usually the people that don't reach the milestones that they really want to get to, because they haven't thought that through, and they're kind of just playing it by chance. Like they're going to the casino and they're just like, give me that 6-figure job, yeah, throwing the dice. So having a plan is really huge.
I was gonna say that a lot of people don't talk about, like a lot of people that they want to get 6 figures and it doesn't work that way. Like it's like other conversation. We could talk about that for 1 hour, but you know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think especially with the pay stuff, that's something that I get asked a lot. I'm sure you get asked a lot about it. There are obviously sites like Glassdoor and stuff where you can get kind of an idea of what salaries might be or types of companies might pay and things like that. And then obviously you'll get confusing and contradictory information on things like YouTube and stuff like that, because somebody lives in San Francisco and they're making 120,000 as like an entry level person, or something crazy, whatever it is. But you kind of have to take a lot of these different sources of information and on salaries, on a lot of different things, right? Take in different sources of information, and you'll learn to kind of sort through that information as far as what's accurate and what sounds like it's probably not accurate. And obviously with like pay, like you said, we could talk about pay for a long time, because there's so many factors that can go into pay. And then if you start talking about like equity that you could get in certain companies, it's just like, but we won't talk about that in this episode. If you give this 1,000 likes, maybe we'll talk about another one. But yeah, I mean, that's awesome for sure. So let's go ahead and let's talk more specifically kind of about help desk and IT support, and kind of the let's start talking about kind of the things that you see from people that are coming into the roles like as their first time job, kind of their expectations versus kind of their reality, and the things that maybe the things that people should really concentrate on in trying to progress their time in that role and trying to get to those next levels.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So if you're trying to, so for help desk, typically like there's a lot involved in help desk. By the way, it's not just like you could just learn one thing. It doesn't work that way. For help desk, typically you need to know about Active Directory. You need to know about Office 365. You may need to know about Windows 10 operating systems. Like it depends the job description. Like it goes back. Like it help. So people ask me about help desk. It varies from company to company. It's not the same in every company. So because I have trained over 300 students, over probably more than that, because I train a lot of different people. So some help desk jobs may require you to know Active Directory. Some may not require you to know Active Directory. Some may require you to know Office 365. Some may not. So it goes back to the job description. It goes back to what they're asking for. And then with me, I always tell people to do a home lab, spin up a home lab, set up a server 2016, 2019, install Active Directory on it, and then go to town to lab it up, right? So you build out user accounts, you learn about password reset, account creation, resetting accounts, unlocking accounts, disabling accounts, just like the basic Active Directory stuff. And then you want to kind of do that with another VM. So what you do is you install Windows 10, you throw that an ISO of Windows 10, you download it, you put it on the ISO, you download it, you set it up. Then you grab that Windows 10 VM and you join that one to the domain. So you set it up. and you add that to the server. So now the server sees that computer, say, hey, hi, I'm here, right? And then, okay, I'm gonna set it up now. So I'm gonna create a user account. You create a user account. You log in with Windows 10 to that computer, and then you lab it up right there, and you start creating share drives, password reset, account creation. You can even lock yourself out as a user. So there's all that good stuff. You got to lab it up for help desk. It's all about labbing it up and learning those skills. And another thing that you probably know about as well, Office 365. Office 365 has a 90-day developer mode. So you could actually get Exchange, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, all those things that I just talked about. You could literally go to google.com. You could type Office 365 developer mode, and you could get Office 365 absolutely free for 90 days. And if they see that you keep using it, they'll keep extending it over and over again. You could do the same thing with your VM, with your server. So if the server has evaluation mode or the evaluation, right? You could actually do CMD command line, and you could update that as well and extend that as well. So I would recommend doing those things if you're trying to get started. Help us build a home lab, spin up VMs, learn about Active Directory, learn about Office 365, learn about Windows 10 troubleshooting. Combine that with A plus stuff, because a lot of these help desk jobs typically they may or they may not ask for CompTIA A plus, depending where you live. So everywhere is different, right? So you need to have A plus. You may not need to have A plus. You may need to have a degree. You may not need to have a degree. So it varies from company to company. So you're gonna have to do a little bit of homework, but once you do that, you should be good to go after that. So now that you have been in help desk, now you have the experience. Now that you've been there for a while, you're like, man, because the problem is that a lot of people work help desk, but they don't know how to leave help desk. They stay in help desk because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to get started or how to level up in help desk. So depending on the role, depends what you want to do at the end of the day. I'm not sure what you're going to do, but if you want to be a network guy, you should look at CCNA. So CCNA is going to help you to pivot over to networking stuff. So I would probably spin up Cisco Packet Tracer, or I will go and buy Cisco routers and Cisco switches, and I will lab it up and learn about CCNA stuff, learn about PuTTY commands, learn about all the Cisco network topologies and all that good stuff, and lab it up, add those skills to your resume. And then you start applying for maybe NOC jobs, Network Operations Center. So it depends what kind of job you want to work. That's network, right? Now, if you want to be a sysadmin, it gets more complicated. Now, do you want to learn about AWS? Do you want to learn about Azure Cloud? So you may have to build a home lab on that. You can actually get that for free. So I recommend you build a home lab, spin up an instance of AWS. You start labbing that away. And AWS actually has free training. They actually have AWS Summit training, which is one of them that I'm going to. So you could actually train for free and get those labs and learn those skills about AWS. And then Azure, same thing. Learn about AD Connect. You definitely need to learn about PowerShell if you're going to apply for a sysadmin job. I am seeing a lot of sysadmin jobs ask for Linux. So you may need to know Ansible. You may need to know Puppet. You may need to know Chef. It depends on the company that you're applying to. So that would be more of a sysadmin job. Now, it gets tricky because some of these jobs may ask for Azure. Some of them may ask for GCP, the Google certification, cloud practitioner, like the Google certification, cloud certs for Google. It may ask for AWS, Azure, depending what job you're applying for. They may ask for either one or the other, or two or three of them. You may have to know all three of them. So you may see stuff like I said, Ansible, Puppet, Chef. You may see Kubernetes. It depends on the job. You definitely need to know Linux. If you're applying for a sysadmin job, you need to know Linux. So I recommend you create another VM and you spin up a VM on Linux and probably get like Ubuntu or something else. So it varies from company to company. You may need a specific cloud certification. So again, I'm going to say this again. Go do some homework, do some research, figure out what cert you need, and it goes back to where you live. At the end of the day, it goes back to where you live. So hopefully that answers your question. Like I went all in.
No, you're good. Yeah.
Cloud. So.
Yeah, I mean, so home labs for sure. I think in any area of tech, any job, cybersecurity, IT, it doesn't really matter. Having some environment where you can practice some of this stuff and learn things and break things is really, really important, because if you do it at your job and you break the network, you might get fired. Just throwing it out there. So you don't want to do it in an environment where it's completely brand new to you and you're doing it for the first time. You want to get an idea of how it's going to affect things and what it's going to break. And doing it in a home lab is awesome. For me, typically, it sounds like kind of the same way. I typically tell people to start out with virtual machines because they are a little bit easier to deal with. You don't have to worry about some of the things with like cloud. I did do a video on creating a home lab in like AWS, but then also too, it starts getting weird if you want to use like the client operating systems in the cloud. But having that home lab regardless is really important to try things out and to learn things, because a lot of the stuff is gonna be brand new to you. It's just how it is, right?
And I was gonna say, like, I forgot to add that if you already have a job, I'm not telling you to leave your job, okay? So if you have a job, like sometimes your hiring manager may have a job opening, and sometimes what happens is the company does not want to spend money or does not want to do an interview with a new person, right? Because you already know the system. So you may want to shadow a tech in your job and see what they need, see what they know, and see what you need to learn, and see what search you need to get. If you want to pivot over to that department, they could actually transfer you over. So you got to ask first, like before you even leave your job. Like you want to ask your manager, ask them, like, I want to be a network admin. Okay, can I shadow a tech? Can I try to learn what they're learning? Because it goes back to budgeting. They may give you a chance because they don't want to interview somebody from scratch that does not know how their system works. So they'll probably give you an opportunity if you ask them, and the manager will probably tell you, go get CCNA, go get this cert. And then I'll probably move you over the next couple of months after you get familiar with our systems and that side of the department. So I will probably look at that as well, as far as trying to level yourself up before you go and look for another company or another job. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Typically, it's definitely more favorable for companies to internally rotate and shift people than bringing somebody completely from the outside, especially if times are tight and they're looking to kind of conserve those budgets. It can definitely be more advantageous to stay internal.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned about certifications. What has been your experience as far as their overall value? Kind of the ones, I know you had mentioned the A+ and CCNA, but just kind of the certifications that have the most value, kind of in your experience.
So for me, it would be it's hard for me to answer that question because I give you advice depending on where you are in your career. So that's number one, because everywhere you go is different. So like I live in New York. And obviously the cost of living is high here. They ask for A+. Some companies ask for Network Plus. Some may ask for Azure, like the AZ900 certification. Some may ask for the AWS certification. So it depends on the company. But for me, in my experience, like the cloud is here. The cloud is here to stay. So you need to know, or you need to get a certification in the cloud. So any certification that is cloud related, whether it's the AZ900 or the cloud partitioner from AWS, I definitely recommend you look at those. But also I recommend you do some research and figure out what they're asking for in your area. You actually will see a pattern. So like if you go into LinkedIn, or if you go to Indeed.com and you start typing cloud positions, or like cloud architect, or you start typing you just type AWS or Azure, you just type the certification name itself on that website, and you just type it in there and then put your area. It will literally tell you what search you need to know, or what search you need to get. And then you'll see like a pattern, like a lot of like 10 or 20 or 40 different jobs will all ask for the same cert. So that's what I tell people to do. So go to your browser, go to Indeed.com, look at the certifications that they're asking for, and then you'll see a pattern. And then based on that, you'll figure out what cert you actually need to get for your job market and for the area that you live in. So.
Yeah, I think that's important to note, is that, what is important today and what's valuable today might not be valuable in 6 months. It might shift. I mean, typically it's not going to happen that fast. That's pretty fast. But, you will see these shifts throughout your career where this certification was hot today. In 10 years, that certification, maybe it doesn't even exist, right? Mm-hmm. It's totally possible, because things in tech, they really do change quick. But in a lot of times in companies, it might take, especially large companies, several years for some of these migrations to different technologies or different uses of things for them to actually shift completely over for this stuff. And so you'll see that as you kind of track it throughout your career. But yeah, that definitely an awesome point. We had a question here, so let's go ahead and throw this up here. So this is from Elhim. Hopefully I pronounced that right. But it says, is customer service call center a good start in IT, or should I be looking for the explicit IT support job?
I mean, I would probably get an IT support job. I'm just saying, but any customer service experience is always going to be looked at as a positive thing in a help desk environment, because a lot of those jobs do look for someone that has good customer service. So I will, if I was me, I would look for more of an IT job. I'm just going based on me. The reason for that is that that's going to be looks a lot better on the resume. But if you want to go for a customer service job and then pivot over to another later on to an IT support job, that's fine. You could do that. Either way, either one works for you. But me, I would just, like I said, it'll be IT support job. Just go straight into that. I don't see why you can't do that. So
Yeah, I think especially with this particular question, the call center and the customer service skill stuff is really, if you were to look at kind of the roadmap of how to get into like IT and tech and things like that, the call center kind of position isn't really on there. It's more of, you're in this position now, and so kind of what can I take from that job and try to transition that into like an IT job. I would give the same kind of advice. If you want to get into an IT job, go for an IT job unless you really have to, switch jobs or something like that. And you're looking at some kind of job that might have some skills that transitions into that. Honestly, a lot of jobs have customer service skills because there's not really that many jobs that you're not dealing with people in some fashion, right? Unless you're completely online and you don't take any feedback from anybody, you're probably dealing with people in some sort of way. And another point too with that is that, sometimes you get people that are, they are very interested in the tech part of things, and they are kind of under this assumption that they can go into a data center or IT job, a cybersecurity job, and they can completely like absolve themselves from dealing with people. And I, I mean, clearly that's not accurate, but what would you say to somebody that's kind of under that assumption?
I always get asked that question, by the way. I get asked that question, like, how do I skip help desk? 'Cause I don't want to work help desk. And I asked them, like, why do you not want to work help desk? And they tell me because I don't want to deal with people. And I tell them that at the end of the day, you still got to deal with people. It doesn't matter what job you work. So you're going to have to know how to interact with somebody. You need soft skills. And actually, when you work, I'll give you like a real example. So if you work like GRC, right, cybersecurity, GRC, you're dealing with executives and VP, and you need to know how to break it down in a non-tech way. So you're gonna tell me you're gonna dodge all that and not talk to anyone in security? Like, you literally
Do
need
it through
soft
email.
skills. Yeah, you can't do that. Like, you literally need soft skills for any IT job, like at least a little bit. And obviously, not everyone is good with people. I totally get that. I'm not gonna say, like I tell people, help desk is not for everyone. It's not for everyone. So you have to figure out what works for you, but also you got to be realistic about it. I'm just saying, be realistic about it. But you need to know how to deal with people. At the end of the day, you need to know how to deal with people, and the best way is socializing, participating in social events. We have Discord, right? Come to Discord, come to Voice, talk to people. Just break out of your shell a little bit. So I know people. I have worked with people that do not like talking to people, but they still do it. They still do it because it's a paycheck. So they still they still do it because it's a paycheck, and they still have to deal with people, and they're okay with dealing with people, but not 100%. So a lot of these jobs, you're gonna have to deal with people. It doesn't matter where you go. I'm just being honest with you. That's just how it is. So
Yeah, I mean, you basically said it all. I mean, it doesn't matter which job that you get into, if it's IT, if it's help desk, if it's IT support, if it's cybersecurity, if it's project management, whatever, right? Like all these jobs, even programming, like you're going to deal with people to some extent. And the more effective that you can communicate with people and relate to people and handle those kind of situations and get better at handling those situations, the more that you'll stand out. And that's one area that I really try to emphasize with people is to try to get better at, because a lot of times in IT and cybersecurity in these tech related fields, we get a lot of people that don't necessarily have that skill set, or they don't have it very developed, or they're more kind of introverted, I should say.
Mhm.
And so they don't enjoy that communication as well. But if you can improve that, then you'll start to stand out from your peers and you'll be in an even better spot. So I challenge you to not be fearful of it or afraid of it, and to really kind of go after it and take it as a challenge to improve on that aspect of things. Go to one of these meetups, go to like the Toastmasters,
I
or,
was about to
you
say
know,
that.
yeah, or whatever, one of these things, and start to interact with people, start to meet people, start to network with people, right? Even just from a professional standpoint, if you can meet people and interact with more hiring managers, more executives, more whatever, then somebody is probably going to get you a job at some point, and it's going to come back to help you a lot, versus going in the corner of the classroom, sitting there, staying focused on your computer and not doing anything, with everybody else and not talking to other people. So yeah, absolutely. We can have another question. Let's throw this up here. So Richie says, have you seen part-time, fully remote, set your own hours IT support jobs? Do they exist?
They do exist. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's gonna be hard for you to find a job like that, but they do exist. I had a friend that does freelancing. There are freelancing websites online. I have some websites, but I can't give it to you on top of my head. It's on Discord actually. So there are some websites that I have that you could actually work 100% remote, and all you do is just remote into someone's computer and take care of any of the IT issues that they have. So that does exist, but it's going to be hard to find a part time job. Most jobs are full time. It's going to be quite difficult. So
Yeah, I agree that part-time thing, that's the difficult thing. Full-time even, it's not until the last couple of years that we've started to see a massive shift for a lot of jobs to go remote in the first place. I don't know what your experience has been, Kevin, but I know for like cybersecurity, I've talked to companies in the past, even just before the pandemic, that were like, no, we don't let our workers work from home. I'm like, what? I'm
mm-hmm.
like, it's not an operational job. Like, why do I have to be on site? And then the pandemic hit, and then you know everybody kind of starts shifting that way. But I think that one thing too is, especially kind of when you're starting out, it's definitely going to be hard too, because for one, you don't necessarily have that track record of being that really responsible employee that can work without that supervision. But also too, it benefits you to be around other people, and people that are more senior to you, that know more, that you can bounce ideas off of. And I guess, Kevin, what's been your experience with remote work stuff?
Honestly, like if it's help desk IT support, you got to be in the office. I'm just saying as it is, because you're dealing with hardware, so you got to deal with computer parts, dealing with a lot with break and fix, PC moves, new hires. So you will see hybrid jobs, a lot of hybrid jobs. So like maybe 2 days remote, 3 days remote, maybe 4 days on site and 1 day remote, depending on the company. So I have been seeing a lot of hybrid jobs for IT support. If it's a sysadmin job, it's the same thing, hybrid. If it's if it's a company that is like they're like they're like, I guess it's like a company that has been up for a couple of years, not long, like a startup, for example, that would be probably like remote, mostly remote. So it varies from company to company, but for the most part, I have seen a lot of hybrid jobs here in New York. In New York, there's not really remote. It's mostly hybrid jobs here in New York. So.
Yeah, and I think too, what I've seen too is just how, how close is the job tied to operational activities. So if you're a project manager, I mean, there in a lot of cases there's not really a reason for you to be on site. If you're, changing responsible for changing boxes out, I mean, yeah, like you can't. We haven't been taken over by robots yet, so you can't just tune into a robot and get it to walk over and take the box and put a new one in place and plug all the cables in and stuff. So, just saying, if you want to create that, that'd be great. I'm sure you would get lots of money, but we are not quite there yet. So, great question though. Great question.
Good question. Yep.
So, all right. So we're at the top of the hour here. But kind of just wrapping this up here, what would be, really the biggest 1 to 2 pieces of information that you would give somebody that is kind of just starting out and that wants to, really be successful and really kind of fast track their career?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing for me is like I always train my students, all the students that know me that have watched my videos for a while. One thing for me is I always tell people to embrace rejection when you're brand new to IT because you have no job experience, no one's gonna hire you. So you have to have a mental mindset because IT is all about mindset. So you got to have the right mindset because if you don't have the right mindset, you're gonna give up really fast. You're gonna give up quickly, and then you're not gonna get a job in IT. You're just gonna like, oh man, I don't know if this is worth it. Like, if it's this, is this for me? Is this not for me? So you gotta have that mindset that you never will give up, no matter what happens, no matter how many job rejection letters you get, no matter how many emails that say no. You stay positive. You stay as hopeful as possible. Have faith in yourself. Believe in yourself, and keep applying for jobs until someone opens the door for you. That's number one. Number two for me is you need to have the mindset that you're always evolving, you're always learning, you're never becoming obsolete, and you're self-taught. You have to be self-taught in IT. If you're not self-taught in IT, you're falling behind. So don't be that person that becomes obsolete. Be self-taught. Be willing to be the one that Googles all the answers. Be the one that just is always trying to learn different things because technology is always evolving. So you have to evolve as well. You have to be evolving all the time. Technology is always evolving. So adapt to technology changes in the IT industry. So
Yeah,
that's my 2 cents.
absolutely. Absolutely. It, you will see changes throughout your career and you'll face obstacles and hurdles. Even just, getting that initial job or getting that initial high paying job and switching and all these things. But definitely as you progress in your career and you continue to learn and stay relevant, you will see success. And as far as the learning stuff, I mean, absolutely. Like there are going to be things that there is either not training on yet because it's so new or it hasn't been discovered, or the training that's out there just is kind of garbage. That stuff happens, and the better that you can get at either teaching yourself or supplementing learning to teach yourself deeper or to understand things better, the better off that you'll be. And if you can even explain that to other people and teach other people, then that's, a step even further to really understanding certain subjects and certain topics. And, whether that's creating videos or just talking to people in general or whatever the case is. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we said about the certifications. What's hot today might not be hot tomorrow. And that's with technology, that's with certain jobs, that's with a lot of things in this career field. But as long as you stay at it and you're willing to put in the work, I think that, you can definitely be successful regardless of the background you came from, whether it's, Chipotle. By the way, I love Chipotle. But, there's people from all kinds of different backgrounds, and it really doesn't matter, but it's who's willing to work and who's willing to, put in the time and the effort to really get this stuff down. And those are the people that are really going to shoot to the top and get those high paying jobs, those 6-figure or multiple 6-figure kind of jobs at the end of the day. So awesome. Well, Kev, it was awesome having you on. If you guys weren't familiar with Kevtech IT support before this, then definitely check out the channel. I have it in the description as well as the title for this video. So go check his channel out. Connect with us both on LinkedIn. And until next time, we will see you guys later.